Hey guys, it's Dave. I hope you're having a good week. Lately, we've been talking a lot about Rocket Lab on this channel, and for good reason, but there are some other stocks I do like to follow and cover, and one of them we really do need to talk about today, and that is Planet Labs. A few people have recently asked me about them, and they've been all over Reddit, Wallstreetbets, getting a lot of hype lately, and I think it's time we take another look at their financial situation and what's going on with the stock. It has outperformed most other space stocks over the past couple days, and some people online seem to think they're just getting started. Before we dive into that, I hope you will consider subscribing by the end of this video. Every new subscriber is very much appreciated, and thank you to my current subscribers as well as channel members. I'll also be sure to check out your comments below so we can continue the discussion there. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dive into Planet Labs. Alrighty guys, so before we dive into the financial situation, what's been going on with Planet Labs, first, just a couple things. Number one, I do have a small position in this stock that I've had for a couple years now and hasn't done particularly well for me, but I do like to just disclose that whenever I'm talking about any company. It is quite a small position, just 600 shares, sitting at pretty much break even now after this recent run. So nice to see that I'm back in the green. But yeah, definitely nothing compared to the amount of money I've invested into Rocket Lab. I did buy it because, believe it or not, there was a ton of hype around this stock and the growth potential they had a while back. I'm not going to go into the full, what the company does, but they're basically the optical wavelength Earth observation company, looking to make the entire Earth searchable, looking to do a lot of good things for the environment, which is why they're a public benefit corporation, have been used a lot and got a lot of publicity with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And yeah, there was a ton of hype about them not too long ago, but the growth has really tapered off and the stock has tapered off with it. So let's take a look at what's been going on here. Well, first of all, stock price obviously has had a decent run over the past month or so. Nice to see for the company. But if you zoom out a little bit further, Planet Labs here is the bottom chart. You can see it's really been outperformed by most of its peers among the space stock crowd, or at least, these companies aren't Earth observation like, say, Aspire is, but they are all space companies, and they've all had really amazing years. We're looking at 350% up, 391% up, and 422% up, respectively, between Rocket Lab, Redwire, and Intuitive Machines, as well as ASTS. So some great runs there, and Planet Labs is sitting at a 78%. Obviously not horrible on a year, but I can understand why a lot of people out there on the internet right now are like, oh my God, all these space companies are having massive runs. Maybe Planet will be the next one. Maybe we can cause it to be the next one, and it's getting a lot of hype right now. Checking out Ape Wisdom, which is a site that tracks basically social media mentions and specifically Wallstreetbets mentions of stocks. Planet Labs has surged massively, going up to the number 2 spot from the number 30 spot, a whopping 1,722% over the past 24 hours. What does this mean? Well, just that the Wallstreetbets crowd, who like to make big options bets on companies, are talking a lot about Planet Labs and probably making big trades on them too. Often you do see these rising stocks associated with the stocks running up, although it could be causation as opposed to correlation. Maybe it's a little bit of Wallstreetbets talking about companies because they run up as opposed to companies running up just because of the Wallstreetbets folks. There is no doubt, though, that Wallstreetbets has had a significant impact on other companies before, whether that's a GameStop or even a space company like Virgin Galactic, and how they can manufacture short squeezes in companies, and just having an outsized impact with a lot of those options trades. So these are some of the kind of posts you're seeing right now about Planet Labs. Our friend here on Reddit took out a $20,000 loan on his credit card, so probably paying something like 20% interest on that loan, and just put the entire amount into Planet Labs, some shares and some call options. Obviously, a very risky move, and you have to outperform the amount you're paying in interest on the loan. Of course, if this crashes, then he won't even be able to repay his loan and will be in huge trouble. Continuing on, someone else sharing a obviously amazing return they've had buying call options on the short term, $50,000 gain in a single day. As well, what they call YOLO calls, you only live once, $25,000. So someone basically says, I saw the news this morning and saw a couple people post about it, so now I'm all in. This is not really the type of research I advocate here. Just imagine reading a couple posts about a stock and putting your entire life savings into it based on, 15 minutes of research. Maybe this person did some more research we don't know about, but wild stuff, really. To me, if you only live once, then you better not blow that nest egg you're building, because starting that snowball rolling again from scratch is really painful. So kind of the flip side to the you only live once thing is you only live once, so you better not mess it up big. Now, these posts I can at least have some respect for, and they do some research and, discuss the company and their prospects going forward, talking about why this person at least thinks Planet could be more valuable under the Trump administration. I find that kind of interesting because at the one side of things, while Trump at least his administration is believed to have more of a focus on space and will invest more in space, Planet is also very big on, tackling climate change and the environment and carbon emissions and things like that, stuff that Trump's administration will not be that focused on. So that's the other side of that coin. Personally, when I heard about the election results, Planet was not a company that came to mind as one that would, greatly benefit from this change in administration. Anyway, another post as well saying Planet Labs being the next big space stock, and kind of why I titled this video as I did, Planet Labs, could it be the next big stock? Talking about some contracts they signed recently and this kind of stuff. As I said, I have a little bit more respect for sharing research and stuff like that. It's what I encourage more on the Discord server is, researching and helping each other out and sharing research, not just taking out credit card loans and, going that way. I mean, at least maybe a line of credit and pay a little bit less interest if that's what you want to do. Not that I would ever say you should do that, but anyway, so that's what's been going on with Planet, but unfortunately what you don't see as much of but does happen a lot behind the scenes is this kind of stuff. This is another post from the same subreddit saying, tried to gamble my way out of debt and it didn't work. This person's account was canceled because they have a balance owing of $16,000 that they can't pay back. Similarly, someone saying here, 4 years of failure, I've been trading for 4 years and really getting desperate because it's not working out for them. And to that I say, this is not the way, my friend. The way is finding great companies and buying and holding them for the long term.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Not trying to see what stock has hype around it and what everyone else is doing and just kind of ape into it. What I can say about Planet Labs, though, in this situation is because the Wallstreetbets crowd is looking at Planet right now does not necessarily make it a bad investment. So we still want to look at what's actually going on with the company. We want to value it based on how much money that we think they'll be making in the future and their future cash flows. So let's take a look at that because, you never know. Maybe the Wallstreetbets crowd is actually right on this one. They did really hop aboard with Rocket Lab and, carry it a little bit with that ride. And obviously Rocket Lab is a company I do believe in. So they can be right sometimes. They can certainly cause a lot of volatility in a company. Let's take a look at what's going on with Planet Labs and is it actually the next big thing? First of all, what I have to say is at least it's not Virgin Galactic, a company that I am not a fan of and has scared me a lot over the years. Obviously, if you're not familiar with it, back in 2021, we had a kind of meme stock craze, one of the original meme stock crazes with Virgin Galactic, sending it, this is split adjusted now, but we're talking $1,000 a share to currently $6 a share. I would not touch Virgin Galactic with a 10-foot pole. I think it will go out of business. But at least Planet is not that. It's more of a sound business. You look at Virgin Galactic. Sorry, these pictures seem to have come out a little bit blurry, but basically the blue box is revenues here. Virgin Galactic has almost no revenues, whereas down below Planet Labs does have revenues, which are growing more noticeably. And, things are a little bit safer as well from a cash burn point of view for Planet Labs, legitimate company. Virgin Galactic, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they can pull it off because it'd be cool to see a space tourism business like that succeed, but I don't see it being a good investment personally. So, where Planet has gone wrong recently and had a massive dip in their own share price over the past couple of years, a part of it is just the macro and being dragged down by all of their space stocks as well. They've all kind of followed a similar trend where they spike near their SPAC and then kind of collapse. But Planet has started missing their revenue projections from their SPAC very significantly. So, when they came public, we thought they were going to be a growth beast. They're projecting 44% compound annual growth rate going out to financial year 2026. Their financial calendar is a little bit wonky, so they're kind of ahead. They're in the future, if you will, I guess Planet Labs are. But basically, they were projecting, a compound annual growth rate of 44% per year, which is amazing. Now, this screenshot on the right is from their most recent earnings call. What happened? We're looking at now a 15% year-over-year growth for the most recent years. Obviously, that's a far cry from 44%. They were kind of on track, as you can see, 131 million for fiscal year 22, and right on there, as well as 191, right on their projections. But obviously, the growth has kind of fallen off a cliff, and this is mostly due to customers on the commercial side of things as opposed to government. Now, okay, is one bad year? Why is this that big a deal? Why does this cause the stock to absolutely crash? Well, as investors and analysts out there, we're basically trying to value the company based on how much money we think they'll be making in the future. And so if we think Planet Labs is now going to be growing at more of a modest 18%-ish, top line growth rate per year versus what they were previously forecasting, a 46% per year. That really, really adds up fast. So the bottom line here is now 5 years of 18% CAGR, or compound annual growth rate, taking them to 500-ish million in revenues from around 220. But with that same starting point, if you had that 46% CAGR going forward, that now you're looking at like 1,500 in revenues in that 5 years in the future. So it's not just the 1 year and the one, drop in revenues. Analysts and investors are projecting this out going forward and kind of foreseeing what the value of the company might look like if they look more like this in terms of their growth, as opposed to what we're just seeing kind of right here, right now, which is just that 1 year blip. It's not all bad for Planet, though. Adjusted EBITDA is getting pretty close to break even. That generally backs out things like stock-based compensation. So we can see how those cash flows are going, and they're getting close, just negative 4 million now in Q2 2025. Remember how I talked about Planet being in the future? That is the most recent quarter for them. Cutting the burn in adjusted EBITDA from 8 to 4, and then previously from 10, 12, 14. So definitely heading in that direction, heading in the right direction, and targeting a adjusted EBITDA profitability in Q4 25. And then, from there, working towards full net income profitability. As well, Planet luckily does have a really solid cash balance and the burn rate not that high, so I wouldn't be worried about them going out of business anytime soon, or struggling to have to raise capital or dilute you a ton or anything like that if you're a shareholder. The cash has always been one of the big bright spots for Planet, and yes, they're burning through it, and maybe the slow spend is indicative of the fact that they're not investing as much into the future now, and they're trying to get that profitability through cuts and scaling back employees. They've had some well-publicized layoffs and things like that, trying to get to profitability that way, as opposed to what their previous plan was, which was through massive top-line growth. But no real worries about the balance sheet, at least right now, in terms of their burn rate and getting to profitability. So, in terms of the coming quarter, we're looking at a year-over-year revenue growth rate of 10 to 16% and revenues of 61 to 64 million. So, as I said, real revenues, real company, but not very big growth. Now, having said that, non-GAAP gross margin is pretty solid, 59 to 61%. Yes, that's non-GAAP, but still quite strong numbers. So if they can return to those growths and somehow keep those non-GAAP gross margin numbers this high or even higher, scaling the company and growing those top-line revenues could have a very big impact. From the most recent earnings call, this is a screenshot of the transcript from Main Street Data. It's the site I use fairly regularly. I'll try to link it in the description below in case you're interested. We had a question about gross margin, saying if they're guiding from 59 to 61 to kind of be the new baseline, and the CFO, I believe Ashley said that's certainly how we're targeting it. So we can look for 59 to 61-ish% going forward, which is quite a solid number. We really want to see, or at least I really want to see, that top line growth come back before I get really bullish on the company, because it all comes back to this chart, right? And if this was just a one-year blip, then so be it. But if we're looking at a trend of an 18% CAGR as opposed to a 46% CAGR, well, it doesn't take too many years before that gap is massive in revenues and therefore in valuation. The analysts, at least, are estimating a growth rate of approximately 18%, 18.5% CAGR going forward. So that's where I pulled that 18.5 number from. Don't always trust analyst estimates, but it's what I have to go on right now, as I don't have projections of their full revenues that I've done myself like I do with Rocket Lab. Hopefully I'll be able to do that in the relatively near future. Likewise, we can see earnings and revenue growth forecasts, the top line growing modestly, and they actually don't have them going net income positive or earnings positive until past 2027. Analyst target prices here are showing a range of around $5 to $2.50 a share. So not a ton of upside compared to where we are now in the mid fours. Again, analysts, I don't generally go off them as my primary indicator of whether I want to buy or sell, but you can take that for what it's worth. So yeah, what we have here with Planet is a growth company that is no longer growing anywhere near as fast. And while I like the vision and the concept makes a lot of sense to me, their new satellite sounds very interesting, checking and seeing those methane emissions and all these different bands of spectrum they can see. I need to see the revenue growth, and I need to, have a reasonable expectation that it grows faster than that 18.5% per year if I really want to go into it. For me, it can be a fine little business. I don't think they'll ever go bankrupt. I do think they'll achieve profitability, but if you're in if you're investing in space, if you're looking for massive growth and massive potential, I need to see evidence that the top line growth will get back closer to 25-30% at least growth before I would consider throwing more money in it. And I do think there is the potential for that over the long term, but Earth observation has had a little bit of a tough time lately, so you might have to be patient if that's what you want. Personally, I'm going to wait out, and once we start to see some signs of that revenue growth rate ticking up, and I'll research it further, maybe listen to the earnings calls and all that, and if I get a good sense that they're confident the growth rate will accelerate, maybe that's when I jump back in. But I'm certainly not just going to ape into it because I think the Wallstreetbets crowd is going to push it up. They might and they might not, but I would say that's not how I decide my investments. I decide it based on if I think the company actually justifies a higher share price, because the one thing about those meme stocks and meme trades is they come down usually as fast as they go up if the company can't actually justify that valuation. Maybe it's a temporary short squeeze or something like that. That's not the way, at least in this channel, in my opinion. But I'd love to hear what you think. Are you a Planet Labs investor? Or have you added recently? If so, congrats on that return. What's your price target over the next few years? Do you think they can return to those growing ways? And any other thoughts you might have, I'd love to hear them down below. I'm going to keep working on that spreadsheet of a full DCF to share with you guys at a later date. But right now, I don't think I'm adding more Planet Labs. I just want to see the top line growth. If I want to see a company that's growing, under 20%, then there's companies out there that are already profitable growing at those kind of rates that are also an option as well. So something else to think about. I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week. I'll see you soon for the next video. Bye for now.